You are listening to the Boss Experience Podcast, a podcast with conversations about business growth, self-development, and maintaining a mindset to achieve business success. My name is Michele Davis, and I am a business strategist and coach, and I am your host. Let's get started.
Did you know that more than half of Americans have listened to a podcast episode at least once? So, if you have a product or service that needs to reach an online audience, advertising on a podcast like The Boss Experience is a great way to get in front of your ideal customer. When you secure an advertising slot on an episode, The Boss Experience podcast listeners get to hear about your business every time someone tunes into that episode. So what are you waiting for? Visit bit.ly/podcast episode sponsor to get started. Now back to the episode.
Welcome to another episode of the Boss Experience Podcast. My name is Michele Davis, and I'm your host. And I'm super excited to be here with Clayton Turner. And how you doing, Clayton?
Hey, good. Thanks, Michele, for having me.
Clayton, I haven't known him that long, but, I knew it was something amazing about him when I first, the first time I met him, which was officially a couple of months ago at a mastermind. And, Clayton, not only is he a phenomenal cook and salad maker, as we all learned as a group, part of our group cohort, he volunteered to cook for us. And, we got to learn, just what an amazing guy he is. Now, Clayton started off in the military, and he went from military to entrepreneurial success. This season, amazingly, is all about business planning. And Clayton, he's mastered that because he went from being in the Navy to, being able to exit his company. And I'm going to let him share more about that. But when we think about business planning, a lot of us are looking at, how do we launch? And Clayton, he viewed it from a different perspective, which I don't want to just launch. I want to exit. And I don't want to just exit. I want to exit as a millionaire. So I'm going to let Clayton share his story, and share how he got to that point, because he has a lot of knowledge related to acquisitions and, online sales. What is it? 30 million in online sales. For a lot of us, that's unfathomable, because we're thinking wow, that's where we want to be. So how did you make that transition from Navy to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, that was I was a stint in corporate America in between there. I came out of the Navy, I just knew I wanted to be in tech. That's all I knew. I figured that was my path. I was very technically oriented. For the last year, I was a navigator on a aircraft carrier in the Navy. And then for the last year, I volunteered with the IT department. I said, just give me everything IT related you need help with. I'll shadow you. I'll fix stuff, whatever. So when I was in the Navy, my last year in the Navy was learning basics of computers and software and some coding. And then when I came out, I just blasted my resume to everywhere that I could. And I happened to get picked up by GE, who was rolling out an international rollout of new sales software. And I went in there with my suit and my fresh out of the military bearing. And they immediately said, oh, okay, you might be good for our New York office. And so I went and interviewed with the executives from New York, and I was like, well, what's going on? And they're like, well, we need a liaison between the IT department and the C-suite to roll out these new apps, because they do not want these new apps. And we need somebody that can help with getting the executives with the apps. And you have that good military bearing, and yes, sir, no, ma'am. And we think that you might be good, liaisons. So I took that job, and I helped with the rollout of these new apps, sales apps for corporate America, and did that twice. And then ended up getting a lot of great experience from seeing how corporate America works, how the game is played there for a couple of years. And then when I was in working for another client, they actually helped me get my entrepreneurial start by basically asking me if I had 4 other developers that I could give them on billable. And I basically helped them. I found 4 people that could be billable for them. And I ended up hiring those people and then farming them out to my clients. So one day I was sitting at a stop sign. I was like, a stoplight. And thought I was in a rush. And then I was sitting there calculating. I was like, shoot, I got 4 people on Billboard right now. I'm making $50 an hour. I'm making $200 an hour right now. So that means like for every minute I'm sitting at this red light, I'm making like $10 a minute or whatever. It's like, I'm not rushed. I'm okay. Wow, this is pretty cool. That was my first entree into, okay, so if you get people to do stuff for you and you figure out the solution, you find the need, and then you figure out the solution, then you can actually be a conduit for helping, as Hormozy says, helping rich people solve problems. And that was my first insight to that. And I was like, okay, I can help rich people solve problems. I'm tech and I know people. I can do this, and I can negotiate. I can do the sales side, and I can motivate the team to deliver what the client needs. That's how it started this whole entrepreneurial journey. So I did the agency work for a while, basically a staffing agency, an IT agency, integration agency, and then got into marketing. And once I got into marketing, started figuring out how to drive traffic to these companies' websites, and I started taking on smaller businesses, SMBs. And once I figured out how to drive traffic and rank these companies, and basically that was the huge eye opener, transformative experience. Like these, and back then, remember, as there was no, it was SEO was the leading nominant. You wanted to be number one, two, or three in your organic search results. So I was able to make some of these companies go from page two to position one, two, or three within a month or two. And that was a game changer. That was my eye opener to go, okay, if you can drive traffic, you can drive results, and you can get a company ranked or a product ranked, that's where the real money is. So I started doing the agency work for a while, and one of my clients, who owned Contractor Training Center, came to me one day and he said, you know this company, you know all of my products because I wrote all this product page ads and descriptions and rankings. He said, you know all of my products, you know all of my courses and bundles and everything that I'm selling. He goes, why don't you just buy this from me and take it up and just do your thing with the internet? And I thought about it. I was like, you know what? I could do that. I couldn't. I said, I'd only be able to pay you $5,000 a month. I mean, I don't have like hundreds of thousands of cash. He goes, okay, I'll take that. I was like, all right, we pretty much signed a napkin. Then I owned Contractor Training Center. So immediately part-time started funneling all my resources to that. I hired a course developer, came down to Florida, and I was trying to move to Fort Lauderdale, and then I kept finding people in Tampa, and I found a course developer in Tampa, and started adding more products to Contractor Training Center. So instead of having just a handful of training products that we could sell, now I wanted to exponentially amp that up, and that's what I did. I basically took all the courses that we could possibly write and hired a couple of course developers, and we created a ton of different courses for contractors around the country. And it was one of the first big Shopify stores, I think, and Shopify Plus Pro plan, whatever. And before I know it, we were having $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 days, and that was like mind altering to me. I was like, wow, what in the world? I didn't even talk to these people on the phone. There was no sales involved. They did a search. They found my landing page. I found my product page. They went and they checked out and they bought the products on their own. That was another transformative experience for me. And I was like, so if you build it correctly and you do it right and your reviews are good, then people will trust you enough to come buy your product. So I went to Vegas. I went to some internet marketing weekends. I spent a lot of nights and weekends learning as much as I can about like driving traffic and product pages in Shopify and apps that could help upsell. And then learning about email marketing, pre-sale, post-sale, like learning all the different ways you can monetize and create more sales just by having that traffic. You have that traffic and you have the client, then that's everything. And you get the email address, then you really kind of own that customer. Now, what you do with it is you give them some value and give them something they want and need. And next thing you know, we were doing $1 million a year. And I was stunned, but I was like, no, we still haven't made it yet. And then we were growing at 50% each year over year. Then it was 2 million a year. Then it was 3 million a year. And I was like, yeah, we're not there yet. And then I think it was year 4 or 5, I was at 5 million a year. And I was like, okay, all right, we're there. I've made it. I can relax. I can like pat myself on the back a little bit because now we truly built something that was amazing. But I attribute that to mainly having the right team. I identified the right two or three people early on who could help me pull this off. And it was three really good professional course developer and ops person who learned Shopify. She didn't know anything about Shopify when I brought her in. I said, I'm going to tell you everything I know about Shopify, and then you go study the rest of it because I got unlimited capacity for learning. So within 3 months, she knew everything. She was teaching me Shopify. And that key hire, those two key hires were what helped me propel Contractor Training Center into the stratosphere.
So I hear a lot of great nuggets, and I hope everyone's, listening to Clayton. So there's a few things. You're phenomenal at relationships because you understood that, relationships are reciprocated. There's give and there's take, and people could look at you and they could say, you know how to close, you know how to interact, or you know how to engage with people. And then I heard you talk about a lot about not having it perfect because we hear like, making 30 million in sales. Surely he had everything perfect, but no, you didn't. You fully immersed yourself in whatever it is you wanted to learn or knew you needed to learn to be successful. And you didn't have all your ducks in a row, but you knew how to look at what you were doing and make adjustments along the way. What are some key mistakes that you see people making? Because, we're part of some of the same Facebook groups and, we interact in this SaaS space, software as a service space, and the entrepreneur space. What are some key mistakes that you see entrepreneurs making right now that's preventing them from actually being able to scale and grow their business? Hey, it's Michele Davis here, host of the Boss Experience podcast, and I have an important message for coaches, consultants, and freelancers that want to increase revenue in their business with a high-ticket service offer. What if I told you there is a way for you to create the framework for your profitable coaching business in a day instead of waiting 3 months, 6 months, or even a year? Get the mentorship you need and receive step-by-step guidance to create a marketing strategy specifically for your business. You can with CEO Blueprint Academy. CEO Blueprint Academy is a one-day intensive coaching session that is personalized and unique to your business and your skill level, so you can get results at a pace and through an experience that is uniquely designed for you. So if you're ready to get started, visit CEOBlueprintAcademy.com and apply today. Now back to the episode.
A lot of them are getting ready to get ready, and they're afraid to make a move. They're afraid to make an investment. They're afraid to make a test launch. I mean, everything that we launched, you want your product page to be almost perfect. You want in our case, training delivery system to be almost perfect, if not perfect. But a lot of entrepreneurs, even the ones that are successful to build a $1, $2, $3, $4 million business, a lot of them get stuck and they're like, well, I don't know about going to a new CRM, or I don't know about running ads or investing in marketing. And we already get word of mouth traffic. And, we tried digital marketing before it failed. And for people launching something new or going after new clients, if you're just starting out, it's working basically for free to prove that you know what you're doing, that you can deliver something for somebody, and not having to charge max retail price for somebody to get started. You need 5 good clients to give you a good reference to get started, and work for them for free when you're just starting out and helping them out. And I see that as on the people that are starting out are the ones who think that they can come out of the gate charging max retail price for their services. And you can't until you have some social proof and some clients that are happy. You go make 5 people very happy, you basically work for free, then you'll find out what you're doing right and wrong by working for those people for free for a month or 2 or 3. But you got to do that. You got to put that in the beginning. You got to put in that sweat equity in the beginning and not pay yourself. You're not going to get paid when you're just starting out. And then when you have started out, let's say a lot of people, and they've hit a certain milestone of success, they kind of stop. They're like, oh, okay, all right, I'm making some good money, but this technology scares me. I don't know about migrating from this system to that system, or a new CRM, or what is chatbot, what is auto scheduling, I don't know how to hire a VA. Like, entrepreneurs doing several million a year get stuck with those questions right there. they won't get out of their comfort zone and push it to the next level and automate their systems, automate their marketing, automate their scheduling. They get stuck. They're scared of transitioning, or somebody in their office is. And that's also what I see a lot. The entrepreneur might be okay with it, but his office manager, who may be 60 years old, does not want to go to a new system. I see that a lot, and they're controlled by their office manager who is reluctant to take on new technology. So that's the ones that have already made it. I see those people as reticent to change and not open to new ways of doing the things they're already doing that they know are antiquated. And it just blows my mind because I'm an automation freak and I love IT. I love making softwares talk to each other. And I love to learn it from the standpoint of, okay, I read it, I see it, I hear it, and then I get it off to my team and I say, hey, they say they can make this happen. Can y'all please do that? And let's do it and let's test it. So many entrepreneurs are just afraid to make change. And that blows my mind too, because the people that get a modicum of a success, they get to a certain level, and it may be 1 or 2 or 3, 4 million a year. They'll stop innovating. They'll stop growing. They'll just okay, we got it now. Here's our formula. It's fine. Yeah, it takes 3 steps to get our customers at the door, and then we have no follow-up sequence, and we have no reach out for reviews. Well, guess what? You're just waiting for a competitor to come up and just chop you up, and then excel you in the ratings, excel you on Google Maps, beat you in SEO, beat you in ads. You're just so vulnerable when you don't continue to automate and evolve with the technology and with AI, the way AI is doing sales, marketing, and lead generation now. It's just amazing. You can be a small startup now. Now is a better time than ever to be a small startup because you can use all the tools that are available, including high level and all the other tools that integrate with it. You could start up now and look like a bigger company and work so much more efficient than you could ever before. So it's actually a really exciting time for startups.
Absolutely. I see a lot of entrepreneurs on the internet, right? And, I've seen them kind of show up, but what is their business without them, their face? They're so much of the face of the company. It's hard for them to have an exit plan. What would be your advice if you could name 3 things, if you could talk to entrepreneurs that, they're not even thinking about exiting, at this phase, but 3 things they can do now so that they can prepare their company to, so that they can exit it at some point and be, a millionaire and really live that dream life that they're working so hard to get to. What would be 3 things you would tell them if you could?
That's a great question. So you really want to start a business with the exit in mind, because do you know that most of the small businesses that are started today don't end up selling or passing down to their kids? They mostly end up just turning off the keys, competitor, or turning over the business to a competitor. And I've seen it happen many times. And I help entrepreneurs prepare for exits. And I've done a lot of deals in helping entrepreneurs exit their business for a higher multiple than they ever thought possible. But there's a few things that you have to do. You need to really, it's better if you start in the beginning with the exit in mind, but you can also, a year or 2 before you exit, you can start doing some things that'll give you, number one, a bigger multiple for your exit and give you more freedom and ability to choose how you exit and what it looks like. And the number one thing is if you want to have an exit in mind in the next 2 to 3 years, the entrepreneur cannot be the sole operator / key operator. That entrepreneur should be able to go away for a week or 2 without the business coming to a halt or without there being any problems. Meaning you have to hire and delegate and trust your staff to do what you do in sales, operation, fulfillment. You have to not be a key component of that business. And so many entrepreneurs are the salesperson, the marketing person, the operations person, the staffing recruitment person, the everything. Yeah, you're making $1 million or 2 or 4 a year, but you are doing everything. You don't want to be in that position when you start looking for a exit and you want to start getting acquired. You want to have a staff that actually does all that for you, so you can remove yourself from the business without the business being impacted. That's the major thing, and the hardest one for a lot of entrepreneurs to consider. And the next thing is you want to have your books in order. You want your books to be so pristine. You want to have all your subscriptions. And if you have subscription income, you want to make sure that's classified correctly. And that's because that gets you a 10x multiple or more sometimes, depending on what kind of business you have. You want to make sure that your one-off purchases are classed correctly in your accounting. You want to make sure that your expenses are not something that don't have something to do with the actual business. So don't be going out and spending a bunch of money on dinners and travel that aren't related to the business. You want to make the business look as profitable as possible so you'll get the highest return as possible when you go to sell it. And number three is your legal and vendor contracts. You need to have basically a data store of all your paperwork, all your employment agreements, all your vendor agreements, and all your contracts you've ever signed. Any real estate you've done, the deals you've done with that business needs to have its own data store. You need to have that all in a folder. And you're going to thank me later because when they come in to do diligence on you and your business, they're going to ask for 40 million pieces of paperwork. And if they're all there in that folder, you're going to thank me later because you're like, oh, we got that. We already have it here. This is our lease from here's our employment agreement from a contractor we had last year because they're going to ask for it. Anybody you've done business with the last 2-3 years, they're going to ask for it. Any big real estate deal or anything like that you've done, they're going to want to ask for it. They're going to see it. So build your data store, get your accounting in order so that your expenses are actually reflect your real expenses, not something that you're paying for your daughter's cell phone and you're taking business trips that are actually family vacations that are on the business. And the first most important one is that you can replace yourself, that your staff can run that business without you. That's three biggest things.
So my audience is predominantly women and a lot of coaches and consultants. What's the likelihood they can actually exit their business and be able to actually sell it?
I'm glad you said that. There's a couple different answers, a couple different things they can do to make that business transferable. Now, you want to be the face of the business. You want to be the face of the brand. Usually you want to be the one that's getting them in. For example, you don't want your business necessarily to be just your name. You want it to be Gemstone Consulting Services. You want it to be something that's transferable. You want to be something, even you can be the face of it for now and draw the traffic to it and build the trust. So that's number one is so you want to build a brand that's transferable. You can't transfer a brand that's your single name. That's too hard to do. It's been done. You can do it, but it's not as easy of a deal, and you'll end up that'll limit your ability to exit cleanly. You'll have to be part of the deal if you're branded to the name. And the second one on that is you want to build a commoditizable library of training, meaning when people are coming in and they're going into your school group or your high level or wherever your training is, that all there is commoditizable and it's tagged in your accounting as when people sign up for your courses, part of that is they're going to these courses and then part of it's they're going to your weekly training. So you want to be able to have a commoditizable library that will transfer to the new owner that's good and valuable, current, and that really has its own reviews in a way that people can actually say, hey, this video series helped me or this training sequence helped me. So you want to prove to the buyer that you have an online library of a lot of content that's valuable and good and that it's helped a lot of people. And I would those are the two major things that you want to think about when you're thinking about a coaching or consulting business that's has an exit in mind in the future.
I love how you're framing everything. Just you have to start your business with the exit in mind. And I hear about a lot of entrepreneurs that are so branded to their company when they decide they want to do something else, they can't because then they have to close up shop. And then I hear a lot about generational wealth. People aren't building it if that means closing down the family business because the family business can't continue on. I understand you have a coaching program you have a coaching program helping people to do exactly everything you've been saying throughout this episode. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you. We just launching buildandscale.com. It's based on helping entrepreneurs build a brand, build a commoditizable product, and how to use AI, sales and marketing to get leads and how to build their brand and how to get sales and to start with the exit in mind, how to get your company ready for an exit and have it, be able to have options, at least when you get there, to be able to say either you want to exit or a partnership with somebody, and here's the value of my brand. That's your retirement account. That's your money to go off and launch another business. So we're helping with a lot of the tech that we're using and branding and sales and marketing. So we're doing, it's called buildandscale.com. We're doing weekly calls, and we're basically helping entrepreneurs who have already had some success, and they are now looking at the big picture and trying to figure out how to scale this thing, how to be smart about how I scale it with the end in mind.
And who qualifies to work with you? Is it, SaaS owners? Is it coaches, consultants, or the mom and pop shop?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's mainly agency owners, SaaS owners, people who have already achieved some bit of success or understand the basics of lead gen and SaaS and online sales. Like you have to have at least an understanding of what we're doing and the tools we're using and sales and marketing. I'd say we're 201 and up. There's not many 101s in our group because we talk about so many things that like cool, advanced, workable tools that will actually take you from point Y to Z, but not X to Z, so you already have to have a bit of momentum when you come into us. That's our biggest thing that we can do is help you scale what you've already got going.
In closing, when you think about the boss experience, what's a simple thought that comes to mind?
The boss experience, I think it's about building and leading great teams and, being able to like deliver great more than satisfactory solutions to your clients. Like that's what I think about. Like when you think about boss, it's about leadership. It's about like building, right?
Absolutely. So how can people find you?
So you can get me on Facebook, Clayton Turner. You can see me on buildandscale.com is our new channel for building out this new coaching cohort that we're launching. And I'm available anytime if anybody has anything. You can contact me there at buildandscale.com. There's a form to fill out. Ping me on Facebook, Instagram, R.Clayton Turner, facebook.com/R.Clayton Turner. And yeah, we like talking to entrepreneurs and helping people out. And I've been traveling the world the last year or two, meeting people from all over the world. And it's been great. That's how I met you in Orlando. And I ended up being the cook, by the way, because I was the first one to bed and the first one up in the morning. So
that's probably the Navy in you, probably, right?
Yeah.
We were all sleeping in. It was about, how many of us it was about what, 15 of us there?
Yeah. So I'd go to the store at 6 a.m, then cooking 6:30, and then I'd go into lunch, and then yeah, we were always hungry anyway. So I was like, well, I'll just start cooking. But it was a good weekend, and that's another example of like get out and meet people, other entrepreneurs, and exchange. I tell some of my the people in my groups, I'm like, you got to go out and meet people. You got to go out and see how they do things and talk to other people and get in their network. And it's all about building your network and your the leads and everything else will follow. But I enjoyed meeting you, and I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. I want to thank you so much for bringing your expertise to my audience and giving them a different perspective, because everything is, not about how to hustle harder. It's about how to build smarter. And I think you definitely, gave them a lot to think about. And I definitely think you gave them a lot to consider and to really take back to their business and really evaluate what is it that they're really and truly building. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate your expertise. I'm so happy, I got to meet you and be able to bring you, here on the podcast to deliver some amazing value. And with that being said, that concludes this episode of the Boss Experience Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and I can't wait for you to tune in next week for another episode. Thank you, and be well. Thank you for tuning in to the Boss Experience Podcast. Don't forget to leave a review for this episode and tune in next time.